Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Waj with my southern accent.
Lord, we're going to get into so much today, Waj. But, I've been feeling good for the last several weeks. So we're going to start with some good news. Now, you know that anytime that I talk about polls on this show over the last couple of years, what do I say? I say polls are like reading the tea leaves, depending on the kinds of questions you ask, who you ask, what time of day, what kind of device you're asking on, you're going to get a range of answers.
Hmm.
However, we use them the way that you kind of use the weather. How are you, if you're going to put on a coat, if you're going to wear short sleeves, like it gives you an idea of what is happening outside. So right now, you tell us, Waj, the latest polls have come out. And wait, before you go in, I will just say this. There is somebody that I can't fucking stand, and I just want people to know who it is, which is Nate Silver. And Nate Silver, like you always say, I wish that we could be wrong for a living and just be wealthy, right? But we don't have the complexion for that. So Nate Silver tweeted this week and said that, whatever bounce Kamala had post DNC is gone. And that is because he doesn't count women. He doesn't
Hmm.
count young people. I'm
Hmm.
like, who are you counting, Nate, when you're saying things like this? But do tell us, Waj, where the latest polls that apparently Nate Silver isn't looking at are saying right now.
Well, hopefully, we can make money without being employed by Peter Thiel, a racist white nationalist billionaire. But alas, we're not Nate Silver. The latest polls, according to CNN this morning, and I'm going to bring them up right now. I mean, check out these numbers. This is impressive. Harris is up 6 points in Wisconsin. In Michigan, she's up 5. In Georgia, she's up 1. Nevada, she's up 1. Pennsylvania's tied. Arizona, she's up 5. So that's impressive. If she gets Pennsylvania, Danielle, Trump doesn't have a path to victory. The good news, bad news here. Well, it's mostly good
Mm-hmm.
news for
Mm-hmm.
Harris, right? She
Mm-hmm.
has multiple paths to victory because even now, North Carolina, according to another poll, is tied.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina wasn't even in play a couple of months ago, like 2 months ago. So she could get North Carolina and she could lose Pennsylvania. And you're like, all right, great. As long as she gets the other states, she can get Georgia, lose Pennsylvania, get Michigan, Wisconsin, the other states. She could get Georgia and North Carolina, lose Pennsylvania. If she gets Pennsylvania, if she just gets the blue Rust Belt states, right, but maintains the blue Rust Belt wall of
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and loses everything else, she gets to 270 with the one electoral vote in Nebraska. Whereas Trump is going all in on 2 states,
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania and Georgia.
Okay.
And if you've seen the funding, they're not even like spending any money right now on like any other state except those 2 states. So that's the nightmare scenario, Danielle. But this is all pretty roses right now because I like you don't take too much into polls. I think they're a snapshot in time, and what we're gonna find out and what we've been predicting is women and young people aren't messing around. And oftentimes, Danielle, they don't use this thing called the landline. If you ask young people what's a landline, they're
Yep.
like, what you talking about? Landline? Is that the same thing as a Rolodex?
Is it? I think it may be actually, which is what's funny. Um, so here's the thing, too. I want to ask you this though, because why do you think Trump is spending so much money in Georgia? Is it because Georgia just changed their certification rules, right?
Mm.
Because we know that a couple of weeks ago at this point, several weeks ago at this point, that Georgia, Brian Kemp's state, we also know that Donald Trump up until recently had been dragging Brian Kemp for filth for, following the law. But we also know that Kemp and his judges have decided to change voter certification. So what makes you like what is the reason for Donald Trump's choice, you think, in these 2 states?
It's his insurance policy that if indeed Kamala wins all those states plus North Carolina, which is a major game changer, he can rely upon the, if you will, machinations of the GOP and MAGA acolytes that he has put in place, like you said on the commission, that they can tilt the election in his favor, much like 2020. Remember that? Find me 11,000 votes. And if Kamala doesn't win by a significant enough margin in Georgia, right? If it goes back to like 10,000, 9,000, 8,000 votes, he then can throw a wrench and say, well, voter fraud and the deep state, and let's go and revisit some of these districts and counties, and then it becomes our nightmare scenario, Danielle. Uh,
Okay.
that's why he's
Okay.
all in Georgia. And also with Pennsylvania, he looks at the polls, he goes, I can actually pull it out. And if I could pull out Pennsylvania, then Georgia gives me insurance.
Okay. Okay. That, I mean, that makes sense to me. Um Here's something though that doesn't make sense. So, the White House press room these days. Um it's funny. Actually, I'll say this first. Um Jamie Harrison, who is the head of the Democratic National Committee, um, tweeted after Pete Ducey from Fox News asked Corinne Jean Pierre, the White House press secretary, the stupidest fucking question I think that one can ask. So let us hold and play that.
Different topic. Since when does the vice president have what sounds like a southern accent?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
I mean, this is.
she was talking about unions in Detroit using one tone of voice.
Is this something that you
Same
think?
line
Okay, Peter.
that
let's-
she used the same line in Pittsburgh, and it sounded like she at least had some kind of a southern
I think.
drawl.
I mean,
What?
do you hear the question that you're? I mean, do you think Americans seriously think that this is an important question? They care. You know what they care about? They care about the economy. They care about lowering costs. They care about health care. That's what Americans care about.
So
That's what they want
okay,
to
well,
hear.
this is
They
something.
care about, your colleague just asked me about what basically we talked about, went back and forth about democracy and freedom. That's
That-
what they care
I
about. I'm not
agree.
even going to entertain some question about the it's just hearing it sounds so ridiculous.
Well, but hearing it is
The question I'm talking about, the questions is just insane.
that how she talks in meetings? Here?
I'm just Peter. We're moving on. We're still moving on. Go ahead, Anita.
So,
Uh,
so
Kareen's response was, I mean, good
I
for her.
mean, it was along the lines of next question, right? Like, here are
You're
your
you're too nice.
colleagues,
I think what she said was, "Are you effing stupid? Are
because
you a
that's what
moron?"
this is why I'll never have that job. Because like I would have just been like this. Like, we're here as serious people talking about serious things, and this is the question that you ask. Well, I think. Well, you think what? You think what? So talk to us, Waj, about what you inferred from this exchange, because I know what I inferred from it.
Southern was doing a lot of heavy lifting for Black,
Thank you.
and what they were trying to do, which they failed to do with turning black, is what Trump asked at the NABJ conference, was a dog whistle and red meat to the base. Look at Kamala. She turns black. And what is she doing? And she's but like Aunt Jemima. And look at this. She's doing, wait for it, the Ebonics. That's what that's what they're trying to do, right? And it also shows you, again, it's kind of a jujitsu. It turns against them because it's 2024, not 1974.
Right.
And people are like, do you not have black friends? And the answer is no.
No.
UC does not have black friends. And also, it makes us talk about code switching, which is the one positive that's come out of this.
Mhm.
Because then I did this tweet, so several other people did this tweet, like, hey, folks, guess what? Everyone code switches when you get with your family, or suppose you're from the South and you're working in New York, but you go back to the South and you unconsciously put up the Southern twang, or Bostonians when they go back to Boston, all of a sudden you're like, what the hell is happening? How come they sound like Ben
Mhm.
Affleck from Good Will Hunting? oh, white people also do this, and then people are like, oh yeah, code switching, I do that also. So the rest of the world kind of understands that there's biracial people, there's code switching, black people talk in a different way when they're at black church versus when they're talking to their managers in New York, like you and I do. And for people of color, it's oftentimes due to protection, oftentimes due to be we have to be forced to be taken seriously. Women do this all the time. So everyone's like, I understand. I now empathize with Kamala. But Pete Ducey and Fox is like, she's sounding black and southern. She's doing, wait for it, slang. And oh, another
It's
word, cringe. I heard cringe also.
it's wild to me, and I feel like this is what I said. In the documentary, I Am Not Your Negro, James
Mm,
Baldwin, which if you folks have not seen that documentary, you absolutely should. But he said, the thing about white people is that they've never had to look at black people. So they've never actually learned anything about black people. They've never had any desire to learn anything about black people. Black people, on the other hand, have always been forced to look at whiteness, right? And understand and know whiteness for their own protection of how to navigate American society. So when I heard that comment that was made, I was just like, you really don't know anything about black people or blackness, right? You don't know how to have conversations because everything in your life is so fraudulent. Nothing is authentic. You have no authentic connection or community. And that's what I got from his commentary, is just like, we don't speak the same way with our friends, with our groups, that we do when you, like you said, when you go to work, when you are in different types of settings. When I am with my family at home, there is one way. When I am out, on MSNBC doing an interview, there is another way, right? Like, everyone does it. And so this
I do it.
idea that somehow she is being like, my friends that are Jamaican, right? They will speak in patois when they're around other Jamaicans, right? Like, when my Nigerian friends are with their Nigerian friends, they will speak in with a different accent and like, it's how
I
people navigate. But if you only know whiteness and only care about whiteness, then this is a fucking shock to you. And you're going to call it out. And like you said, because it's jujitsu and we're not living in this time when black and brown people feel the need to have to explain themselves to white people, it's like, miss me with the bullshit.
Yeah, that's what I liked it. She's like, she was about to answer it, and she's like,
Yeah,
"This
I'm
is
not going
just
to do that.
like, she goes, this is just, you're an idiot." She didn't say that, but you could just see from her eyes, like,
Oh,
She did
yeah.
say, "This is insane." So I think that was as close as she got to breaking, and then she's like, "I'm done," and then she just pivoted. And I'll just tell people, look, I was born and raised in the Bay Area. My first language, folks, was Urdu, which is spoken in Pakistan. I couldn't speak English until I was 5. I went to ESL, so you can imagine me, little brown Waj, learning English as a 5-year-old in school because my parents didn't give an F. My grandparents are like, we're just gonna teach him Urdu, he'll learn. And then I was born and raised in the Bay Area. Hello, like talking with a little accent. So,
They're like, where were you born? And you're like,
yeah, they're like, where'd you
California.
come from? Karachi? I'm like, Fremont. And so, this is what it's called, being part of a global community. When, like you said, Danielle, you know other people of color, and just you go out of your region. And I joke that unfortunately, Trump and MAGA's idea of diversity is a redheaded white person.
Yes. 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 That's, I mean,
That's exotic.
and also, I don't think that they have. Do we have any redheads over in Trump world? Like, I
No,
don't actually think so.
Giuliani's kid, is he still redheaded?
I, oh yeah, that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
remember?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, that's, I mean, I don't want to waste too much time on that dummy, because that's exactly what he is, a fucking dummy. And just kudos once again to Kareem for being able to manage not to call him a fucking idiot on national television, which is what I wanted to say. But her eyes said enough. Black
We could
women in our faces.
we
A
could
lot of
pivot to some good Kamala news if you want. Some more good
please
Kamala news.
go ahead.
So I just want to bring this up. something that Democrats have been accused of not really doing. They paying too much attention to the presidency, losing seats. It was the criticism of the Obama administration how they hemorrhaged. Well, Kamala and Tim Walz are learning. Political Playbook uh, just said that the Harris campaign yesterday is going to do a $25 million down ballot investment. Now, what does that mean? They have so much money that they're saying, you know what? We're going to give the Democratic Party this money we've accumulated to win down ballot races. And why that is so important is state legislative seats, Danielle,
Mhm.
are now in play. And if you can win those, it makes future cycles more winnable for the Democrats to preserve our democracy. Because as we have
Mhm.
talked about, this is not just Donald Trump. It's about defeating the entire GOP, which is part and parcel of this Project 2025 manifesto, right? That I just want to remind people that Project 2025 is not just relegated to the presidency. That is the GOP playbook, folks, for
Mhm.
governors, state legislatures, the House, the Senate. Anytime they have the majority, Project 2025 is going to be in play. So Democrats realize, oh, it's not just enough to barely hold on to the Senate, to get the House, to get the presidency. They're finally, as we've been saying, they're going on freaking offense. So blitzkrieg. Let's win as much as we can. And let's be competitive in places that we forgot, like Florida. Florida might be in play. If not now, Danielle, maybe 4 years from now.
Yep.
Texas.
Yep.
Let's keep chip away.
Yep.
So hats off to the Democrats for this. I'm impressed.
I think that what we are seeing is a desire and a need and a strategy to play the long game.
Yeah.
I think that for too long, Democrats have been playing the game that is right in front of them, which is the immediacy of an election that is coming in, less than 60 days, right? I think that right now, what they are seeing is we're in this position because Republicans have been playing the 30, 40, and 50-year game, right? And they arrived here not just over the last 8 years with Donald Trump, but they were prepared, right, for that type of figure to come in and be able to overturn precedent, right? Be able to create a 900-page manifesto, be
Mm.
able to put together a right wing like LinkedIn, right? So that they have people that are ready to go to infiltrate our government on day one of a Republican presidency. And
Back
just
to Supreme Court.
right. And just to, put a fine note on this, so we do know, right, that Laura Trump took over the RNC, right? They kicked out who did they Ronna
Romney.
Ronna McDaniel Romney or whatever her name is. They kicked her out and they put in Laura Trump as the head of the RNC. And Waj, what's happened over there since then? What, where, how their money going? How's their money flowing?
You see, you are more of a masochist than me because I saw
Uh huh.
this music video
Ah
starring Laura
ah.
Trump, and
Uh
it
huh.
was on
Uh
mute,
huh.
and
Uh huh.
and I was like Kareen, I'm like, not today, not today, Satan. But
Oh no. We're gonna Waj. You're gonna watch it with
no,
everybody right
no.
now. Oh God, I think that's where the money went.
Wow, you might be right. That's
Uh-huh.
wild. That's wild.
Yeah. And so basically, what if you also remember, um, is that the RNC was hustling down ballot candidates in
Mm,
saying that basically you need to tide money to the top of the ticket.
mm.
And then maybe Donald Trump will shout you out or show up at your event or blah, blah, blah. So this is just to juxtapose what the Harris Walls ticket is doing by pushing money down ballot. Donald Trump is the vacuum that sucks the money from down ballot and makes those people give to him, right? And just maybe he'll help them out. But if we know anything about Donald Trump's record of candidate picking over the last couple of cycles, they don't fare well. They
Yep.
don't win.
Carrie Lake down double digits in Arizona.
I
In
mean,
Arizona.
does anybody remember Herschel Walker? He
Let's
was
not go back. Let's not go back.
just saying.
Let's only go forward. But thank you, Republicans. Thank you, Republicans, for being corrupt. Thank you for being lazy. It's post Labor Day. Usually during post Labor Day, what happens? You go into overdrive. You get on the offense. Donald Trump golfing, not even campaigning. And instead, this money is going for Lara Trump's horrible video that you made me watch. Meanwhile, as that's happening, Danielle,
Mhm.
some other good news here. I know this is rare. Usually, it's a doom and gloom for the past couple years on Democracy Ish, but we actually have some. We are going to pepper it with some good news here. I think the GOP should be a bit worried because, in addition to Harris Walz going on the Blitzkrieg, which I love,
Love.
I want to put this tweet up by Kyle Griffin from a political playbook. I think this is some encouraging news, and basically it basically affirms what you and I have been saying for the past couple of years. 1 million people have now registered to vote this cycle through vote.org, including 17% who live in the 7 top swing states. That includes North Carolina now, folks. Now
Mhm.
check this out. More than one third of new registrations are from 18-year-olds, way up from
Mm-mm.
8% in 2020, and 79% are voters under 35. Danielle, what do you attribute this huge shift to?
Energy. I
Mm,
would attribute it to energy. I would attribute it to people feeling possible again. I would
mm,
attribute it to the Harris Walls campaign speaking, right, to young people in a way that's not like, hey, youngster, here I am. No, they're just like, look, we know that shit has been hard for you. You are a generation that is coming in that is less likely to own a home, less likely to get married, less likely to have children because the economics of this country are not set up for your success.
mm,
And so you have the Biden Harris administration that has been pushing student loan debt relief, and they're watching the Republican weaponized MAGA court push back against their ability not to live in debt while they give tax breaks to billionaires.
mm.
Right? You're seeing investments, historic investments into HBCUs, billions of dollars coming from the Biden Harris ticket, wanting to be expanded upon by the Harris Walls ticket. You were seeing her letter to HBCU students saying, you know what? I need you, right? And I'm looking directly at you. They are going where young people are, providing young people what it is that they need. I am not at all surprised by these numbers. I think that it is encouraging, it is exciting, and it shows you that the Harris Walls ticket is doing the work.
And also one big word, the magic word that we've been talking about for 2.5 years: abortion. This is the Pyrrhic victory that we mentioned 2.5 years ago. And like we said on Democracy Ish, it is going to be a top 5 issue for the midterms. It was. And we said that Democrats should be bold and aggressive on it. They would be rewarded. And I believe abortion rights, and specifically women's rights, is going to be one of the galvanizing forces, not just for women, but also for young people, because they do not want to go back. They want to go forward. Danielle, it is my honor and duty
Mhm.
to ask you this question. And this is
Mhm.
just a testament to the times we live in
Mhm.
because we have to deal with Trump and MAGA. Do we end today's show with Hitler
Ah,
or Ginny Thomas?
I mean,
Hitler,
in
Ginny
some
Thomas.
ways, they're one and the same.
Oh,
Um,
ooh.
but so hard. I choose Hitler.
Okay, let's go Hitler. Then we'll take the DeLorean to Ginny Thomas. Why is Hitler in the news, folks? Because Tucker Carlson, yes, that Tucker Carlson, decided to host a very quote unquote controversial historian named Daryl Cooper, who has this type of apologetic narrative of Nazis. And he's the man who said that Winston Churchill was the chief villain of World War II. Now, Danielle, I am
Oof.
not a historian. I am an
Mhm.
English major, but I know that Churchill, who, by the way, South Asians, people of color, we don't like Churchill. But Churchill was not the chief villain of World War II. The chief villain of World War II was a man by the name of Adolf Hitler,
Oh,
who had a genocidal campaign which killed 11 million people, including 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. And oh, I don't know if I am hosting a kind of Holocaust, World War II revisionist historian who kind of praises Adolf Hitler and denigrates the allies who fought against fascism. What does that make me, Danielle?
a Hitler lover?
Maybe a racist? And do you know who retweeted and said, watch this interview? Take a guess. What billionaire? Just take a guess.
He's from an apartheid country. Uh, Pocket full of jewels from daddy. And his children hate him. Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Elon Musk then deleted the tweet as of today. And Tucker Carlson, folks, I want to remind you, he's not a one-off. He was right next to Donald Trump at the RNC. Have they condemned him yet? Nope.
No. I don't know what else we need to see from these people in order to say if it walks like a racist duck, if it quacks like a racist duck, if it hosts racist ducks, then guess what? It's a racist fucking duck.
And speaking about racists, but racists who like black people, I want your thoughts on this. It just dropped right now, so I have to bring it up. Ginny Thomas. Some more terrible news about Ginny Thomas, who is married to Clarence Thomas, you know, the good black, according to Ginny Thomas's family. Folks, ProPublica has been doing God's work, and they just found an email that Ginny Thomas sent to a right-wing group that promises to defend religious freedoms just for white Christians. And she, quote, privately heaped praise on a major religious rights group for fighting efforts to reform the Supreme Court, efforts sparked in large part by her husband's ethical lapses. And she sends them an email and she says in all caps, "You guys have filled the sails of so many judges. Can I just tell you, thank you so much." Danielle.
There is not a harder working SCOTUS spouse than Ginny Thomas. It is incredible to me that this woman has yet to be indicted by Merrick Garland. Not a shocker, given who Merrick Garland has shown himself to be, but my fucking God. Interference, unpatriotic, funding insurrectionists, and now celebrating those that are working to destroy our justice system and our democracy, and is married to a man that has more ethics violation than Donald Trump has court cases right now. And that is saying a lot.
But other than that, things are going great. This is why we have to win, folks, because it isn't just about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. It's about the Senate. It's about the House. It's about the state legislatures. It's about city council. And it's about the Supreme Court.
Thank you for listening to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Mujahid Ali.
And folks, we have some exciting news that Democracy-ish, beginning next Friday, is going to be going live at 12 p.m. Eastern. We are so very excited. You're going to be able to join the show. And folks, I know it's scary, but it's Friday the 13th when we're going to be going live at noon on my YouTube channel. You will see the link. Follow, subscribe, and then you'll never miss a show. But as always, we will be back next week.
Live.
If in fact we have a country left. Inshallah.